Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
It's Michelle, everybody.
Woo-hoo.
Michelle, are you excited to be back talking about another movie this week?
I think that I am excited, but I have also been going through a moment since Spooktober of, like you experienced, of do I even like horror? Do I even like this? Why do I do this to myself?
As it turns out, yeah, I definitely do, but sometimes I wonder. I definitely sometimes wonder. So if this happens to be the first time you're tuning into our show, first of all, thank you for checking out the show. But if you just checked it out completely at random and you don't know what's going on, even bigger thank you to you, you risk taker, you. As a man who said, I don't have a clue what a Shudder is or why you would watch it, but I'm going to put that thing on. I'm going to see what these people had to say.
I hope they're
Michelle,
not disappointed.
Right. First of all, Michelle, tell people what Shudder is.
Shudder is a streaming service for horror and horror-adjacent movies and TV shows, including things like today's movie, Mandrake, but also including things like Dragula. And I know some of the drag performers from Dragula, and that is my shout-out that I have not mentioned on this podcast before, and I love them so much.
Except you didn't mention any of them by name, so it's not technically a shout-out? I mean,
I know,
are you gonna do that?
I don't want to know, because then it turns into name-dropping. But if I just say, hey, I know some really cool drag performers, then it's like elusive.
Trust me, I know some cool people.
Exactly. Like I could say I know the president, but I'm not specifying like which president, the president of the United States or the president of a homeowners association in the metro region. It's very vague. They cannot infer anything. Yep.
That's fair.
I keep it vague.
So yeah, that's what Shudder is. And here's the even better thing about Shudder. Not only do they have all this horror content, but they also put out original and exclusive stuff that you can't see anywhere else. And that's what we talk about here on the show. And as Michelle mentioned, the new movie this week, it's a Shudder original, I believe, if my computer would respond here. Yes, it is. A Shudder original called Mandrake. Are you familiar with Mandrake legend and mythology, Michelle, going into this movie? Did you know anything about Mandrake stuff?
Well, I'm a little bit surprised because I put out our social media posts ahead of time when I know nothing about the movie, and I made a Harry Potter reference, and apparently mandrakes are a thing outside of Harry Potter, and they are exactly like what is in Harry Potter. And so my mind was a little bit blown because, yes, I did know about mandrakes, but I knew about them from a Terf. So I feel conflicted.
From Joanne the Terf. Well, no, that's fair. But yeah, so I mean, they're definitely a milded. Milded is not a word, I think, but it's definitely a tamed, a milded version of the Mandrake legend there. But yeah, so that's I know a little bit about that just from random mythology things along the way as well. And so my interest was piqued going into this one. What I'm going to do here right quick is I'm going to read the description of this movie for you folks at home directly from the Shudder website, exactly as they portray it to you on the website. Here's what it says. Mandrake, directed by Lynn Davison. In this witchy thriller, probation officer Kathy Madden is given the task of rehabilitating notorious killer Bloody Mary Laidlaw back into society after 20 years in prison. Kathy has always believed that every client deserves a shot at redemption, but her beliefs are firmly tested when two children disappear near Mary's farm. A Shudder original. Michelle.
Yeah.
Tell us your spoiler-free thoughts on Mandrake.
Okay. This is one that it's kind of hard to pick an overall arching how did I feel about it, because I felt very different throughout different parts of it. And here's what I can say for sure. I was not into the beginning at all. But then halfway through, my husband came home and he gave me a burrito. So then I started watching the movie while eating a burrito, and that was the part of the movie where it got much better. So I don't know if it's that the movie got better or if I had been irritable during during the first part and was just much happier while eating a burrito. But then at the end, my burrito was gone and I was back to being slightly disappointed. So I think my experience is tangentially related to the status of me eating a burrito during it. And I would say that if you're eating a burrito throughout the entirety of this movie, or else several burritos because it's an hour and a half, then I would say it's a 3. With a burrito that you're munching on and enjoying, then it's a 3 overall.
Well,
your reaction cracked
that's
me up.
that's us jumping the shark here on We Watch Shudder, everybody. We're just gonna call it a day. I appreciate you tuning in all these episodes. No, that's the I gotta be honest. That's the most that is a very pure and honest review. I think that's
I'm all about honesty.
So you go in 3 skulls here. My thoughts on Mandrake. Again, I knew a little bit about the Mandrake mythology. Obviously picked up real quick here that this is going to have a lot of kind of pagan and folk horror and witchcrafty kind of overtones. And I'm really into all that kind of stuff. And so I was definitely probably a little more into this at the beginning as you were. And overall, I think this is really one of the okayest movies I've ever seen, right? It's I don't have any real complaints about it. I don't mind that I saw it. I'll probably never watch it again. I wasn't completely taken by it, but I thought it was really capably done. There are a couple of really neat moments in here. It does have some teeth to it that and does things that we've definitely talked about that sometimes bother me, but I thought does them in a way that's not as bothersome as some other movies choose to do that. You'll understand more in the spoiler section. Michelle already knows. It's fine.
I know.
But yeah, no, this was just a totally okay movie, and I am also going 3 skulls on this one. I think that pretty much sums everything up nicely.
I would like you to watch it one more time, but watch it while eating a burrito and let me know if your score increases. Because I do need to know if that's just a me thing or if it's one of those where, like, this burrito pairs perfectly with Mandrake.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I didn't think about it until literally just now. But when we get into the spoiler section, we're going to talk about how I actually really enjoyed this movie at the beginning and sort of through the middle section, and then the further we got into it, I like it makes some choices and does some things with its storytelling that, again, they're not bad necessarily. They're just not like super engaging for me. But as I stop and think about it, I also early on, about 15 minutes into this film, started eating some sweet potato fries with a blue cheese pecan dip, and was just kind of noshing on those for a decent. I don't know exactly how long, but a decent amount of time during.
Did you enjoy the movie?
Kind of, that was, again, I don't know when the sweet potato fries specifically ended, and how that coincides with when the movie started to lose me a little bit, but I mean, it has to be roughly equivalent, right? If we know that if we know that the sweet potato fries were gone before the movie ended, and as the movie went further and further, it lost me a little bit, then I think ultimately you may be onto something. This could just be a better movie if you're eating food while you're watching it. And that is an interesting
if you have not seen it.
scientific discovery we've just made. Do we have any listeners left at this point?
I'm sure
at this
that
episode,
they're here,
Michelle?
but they're at a McDonald's
God.
drive-through, so
This
that they
may
can
well
go
be
chow down.
the most bizarre and esoteric opening. Also, the longest spoiler-free section I think that maybe we have ever recorded. I'm okay with that.
Do we have anything to say in the spoiler section? One way to find out.
Yeah. So anyway, what we're talking about here again is If you have not seen this movie and you would like to see it before we talk about it in very spoilery detail, right about now is when you're going to want to put a pause on this podcast to go do that. Just make sure you come back and finish the show after you're done. If you're one of those weirdos who for some reason finds us entertaining and you don't really care about horror movies and you're just listen to us, I mean, we love you, but you may need a therapist. Anyway, did I just insult 3/4 of our audience, Michelle?
Potentially, but here's the thing: if they don't like us, they can just go get food because we also get better when you are eating.
Absolutely. If you, I am much more tolerable if you are eating a burrito.
Yep. That's just how our content should be consumed as a burrito is consumed. Anyway, to our spoiler
happening?
section.
Oh my God.
So anyway,
hit that pause button right about meow. Okay, now we're in the spoiler section.
It's because I put on my tie-dye Goosebumps shirt, so I'm just feeling like extra fly right now.
Look,
I'm ready.
Here's the thing. If we've lost them, we've lost them. If we haven't lost them, we're not going to. So let's just skip the movie discussion for a moment. In the spoiler-free section, Mattel? What's happening?
Yep.
Michelle,
okay. Yeah.
Now that we're in the spoiler section, tell me please in detail what was in this burrito.
Okay, so it's a Pancheros burrito, which is one of my favorite places in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And it had rice and it had queso, which usually I'm not a queso person in my burrito because it makes my burrito too liquidy, and I don't like that. I like a nice solid burrito. But it did have a corn mix, and I love a corn mix with some rice. And
like
I believe it was
salsa?
Chicken. Yep, some shredded cheese, some lettuce, and then I'm pretty sure it was some sort of mild salsa because I am a wimp, but I'm working on it. One of my COVID things was I wanted to learn to eat spicy food, and now I can handle jalapenos sometimes. It was very
that's
good.
awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Mandrake. Michelle, you said that you were kind of all right with this movie. I don't know. This movie was so thoroughly just okay, just so middle of the road that I don't even know where to start talking about it. Maybe what we should do is have you, for those folks who are not really interested in watching the movie but still want to have some context, tell them a little bit about what happens in Mandrake.
Okay, so this movie kind of works in parallel, telling a couple different stories, which does work for and against it, depending on the type of, or the part of movie that you're in, because at one point I think it becomes too many perspectives, and we can get into that. But there is a lady who I believe her name is Kathy, if I'm remembering correctly.
It is Kathy.
There's Kathy.
With a C.
She is... with a C. And she is a social worker, and Bloody Mary, whatever her last name is, just got released. Yeah, just got released after spending...
I'm sorry. How am I the one who's remembering all the names right now? What the fuck?
I don't have my cheat sheet pulled up.
This whole episode is just bizarro world. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
No, it's okay. This is probably our last episode ever before we both go missing, and people are gonna be like, "We knew something was wrong when we heard that episode." Yeah.
You may be on.
I'm not wrong. Yep. Are we on something, though, is the better question. Okay, so Bloody Mary just got released from prison after killing her I almost said father, killing her husband. Her child was taken away when she went to prison 20-ish years ago. Now Kathy is her social worker. Kathy goes out to put an ankle bracelet on Mary. The villagers are kind of scared of Mary. They think that she's responsible for disappearing children. And then some children do go and get disappeared. And then they find out that the children were killed. And then everybody blames Mary. And was it Mary? Was it not Mary? Well, yes, it was Mary. And it's for supernatural reasons because she needed to get a mandrake or something. I'm a little confused about that part because one of my complaints about this movie is it's too fucking dark. I really wanted to see what was going on, and there were some cool silhouette shots, but there were a lot of times where I'm like, did they forget to put the light on? Did they even film anything, or is this just shot in black with voiceover? Because I could not see anything, and I really wanted to get some eyeballs on some of the stuff that was going on. And then I get very confused about what happens near the end because it's a lot. But Kathy's okay, and her son has been cured in the end.
So that's Mandrake. I I genuinely am not even really sure what to say about the movie. Your summary is right. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. As a general rule, I think we've all figured out over the course of the podcast that one of the horror genres that I personally am really interested in is folk horror. Not just new folk horror. I'm like old school fucking Wicker Man and
not the bees.
No, not that
Yes.
Wicker Man.
I like that Wicker Man though. I really like Nicolas Cage.
That's fair. Anyway,
Yeah.
But also I really like witch movies, right? I like pagan witch movie stuff. At least when it's done well. And when I say when it's done well, I don't even necessarily mean that like when it's done like 100% authentic to real world pagan or whatever cultures or witchcraft styles or whatever. Just it has to feel authentic, right? And this movie
it has to be
definitely
a good movie.
Look, Michelle, I'm trying real hard here right now, lady. Cut me some slack.
I know, but you're like, I enjoy movies if they're good, is how you could have summed that up.
Anyway. No, I thought this movie was really good at creating that authentic atmosphere. It does, from a narrative perspective, the way the story plays out, it does become a little sort of everyday horror movie in the third act. And sort of doesn't become a bad story, I think. It just kind of loses its way and does become very muddled. Like you said, I'm not surprised that you were quite confused by it. I think I followed it decently well, but there are definitely things that I'm still not super clear on. Like, the biggest thing to me is, like, just out of nowhere, that guy who's the head of the parole board or whatever just suddenly admits to somehow having some kind of connection to her and the wandering man, and then he kills himself because she makes him. It just came out of left field, and
There's
happened.
a lot of that in this.
Yeah. In the third act, there's a decent amount of things that are just. It's just not narratively really well tied together, I thought. But I thought they played into some of the Mandrake things in ways that I've seen before. I've actually, curiously enough, recently seen another movie that's very much built around Mandrake legend. That is, I believe, from Mexico or somewhere in South America. But it's a movie called Dis, D-I-S, and it is a significantly more aggressive, difficult horror movie. It has some really not safe for work type of stuff in it, if you follow what I'm saying. It might be one that's right up your alley, and it's
Nice.
It's really bizarre and kind of esoteric. But like, if you look into the Mandrake mythology, one of the big parts of the legend in a lot of cultures, or in the original, I forget exactly where it comes from, but the idea is that the Mandrake grows in the ground underneath where men were hanged, and what it grows from is their blood and fat and other fluids that all just slowly drip down off the body as it's decaying, and then those roots grow from that, and it has a lot of like fertility purposes and like warding purpose. Anyway, it's so incredibly entrenched in so many different folklores, and all because it's this root that just very curiously happens to be like oddly man-shaped. And I think that's fascinating, that like this thing appears like in various places all over the world for that same unifying reason. And I think it's an interesting principle for the story. I thought this lady who plays Mary Laidlaw reminded me a decent amount of the mother from another witch movie we watched recently, or talked about recently at least, called Hellbender.
I also thought of Hellbender. Yeah, she gives me mother vibes. I forgot what her actual name is. That Zelda?
No, she's
it's
just the
Toby.
mother. You mean
no,
the actress?
but I mean the actress.
Yeah. The actress
was that
is
Zelda
Toby.
Adams?
Yeah. No, Toby.
Toby Adams. I got them mixed
Zelda
up.
is the daughter.
Yeah, I remembered Zelda and Toby. I could not remember which was
Toby
which.
Poser. That's her name. Toby Poser.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
okay.
but so
We're
I got some of those vibes. I also I really liked the element of they tease this like odd woods creature, this monster kind of thing, and then it just turns out to be her son in like a weird costume. I kind of thought I don't know why I found that the way they played that particularly interesting and effective. But yeah, mostly my issues were just the way the story, frankly, kind of falls apart towards the end, and it didn't really keep my attention strongly through the third act. But I really appreciated the skill of it, and I didn't look into. I think you said you have the IMDb page. Tell me a little bit more about Lynn Davison.
This is her, I believe, correct? Yes.
I think
this
so.
is her first movie that she's directed.
Okay.
So
yeah.
She's done several shorts, and it looks like she's written on a lot of things, but this is her first full-length thing, which is why I know a lot of early work from a lot of directors is bad. This isn't even bad, so it's like, I think with more experience, we'll see a lot better from her, because there were definitely, even though everything was so dark, there were some things where I was like, this is beautiful, it's just excessive, and I don't want to see just more outlines of things. I'd like to actually see things. And so she definitely has an eye for setting up those artsy shots. I just want some more visibility outside of that.
And the reason I ask specifically about her as the director is because, like I said, most of my only real problems with this movie are in the narrative, in the writing, right? And I know she didn't write the film. But I did really, I was really impressed with some of the tension development throughout the movie. I agree there is some great photography here, and I also agree it could have been lit a little better, I think. Also, I do always have to point out that my eyes are also 42-year-old diabetic eyes, so, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of that as well. But I would hasten to say all the more reason to ensure your scenes are well lit, because Michelle's are not 42-year-old diabetic eyes, and she said the same thing. Some
of my favorite moments were the day shots, because I could actually see.
Maybe my favorite moment is that weird sort of like ultra well lit dream or hallucination shot of the other wife, whose name I can't remember, unfortunately.
Grace? I have no idea. I'm
Grace.
making that up.
Yeah.
Is it Grace?
I think
Okay.
it is Grace. Yeah, Lucas's stepmom, Luke.
Can't believe I knew
there's that sort of dreamlike shot where she's just brightly lit and she's wearing the flower crown and everything. Like
That's
that just comes
too.
out of
It's
nowhere,
beautiful.
and I just thought that was really like unique and interesting there. But yeah, I like I said, I don't have any real strong complaints about the movie. I don't mind that I saw it. I think it shows a lot of promise, and I'll be looking forward to seeing more of what Lynn Davison's got.
My two big thoughts are Mary is my future. I'm definitely going to be a creepy woman in the woods that everybody is afraid of and thinks that I am stealing their children.
And is
I'm not.
Fiercely Irish. Irish.
Yeah, I'm going to become fearfully Irish. The more I age, the more Gaelic I learn. I know zero right now. So I got to grow up, and then you learn Gaelic. That's what I know. And then the other thing was I found it very interesting that you and I have very, very different movie tastes. We have talked about that endlessly on this show. You like folk horror. I don't. I was trying to keep an open mind, but I really was not sold in the very beginning. And yet with this movie, we came down on the exact same rating. So I think this will just be a it's fine movie for a lot of people.
I don't think anybody's going to be upset that they saw it for any reason at all. The one thing I did want to mention is obviously, I mean, we're this deep in the spoiler section. They kill some kids in this movie.
Yep.
Which it definitely. I mean, that's a place that I'm not against going to, but it is pretty kind of an almost on the edge area for me. I did feel like this movie handled that in a really tasteful and well balanced way. It's not overly graphic or exploitative in any way. They get the pointer. In fact, it's also one of my favorite shots in the movie, where they're showing you that montage shots of the children's bodies when they find them, and then they finally cut to that one shot from the side. And actually, if you're not really looking for it, you might almost miss it. That the throat has been cut. And I thought it was it was still, at least for me and the way I experienced those kind of things, it was still a really heavy and intense point of that movie. But I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I think that they handled child murder very well.
Yeah,
it was actually the way that the corpses are kind of like lovingly displayed. It was like, well, there's a reason for this. It's not just to be malicious. We just don't understand why.
Right, and then we definitely find out why. But and then
you got to get that potato baby.
That potato baby.
Just an angry potato baby that has healing properties.
Oh, yeah, and it screams when you pull it out of the ground. Screams so hard it'll kill you.
Yeah, I learned that part from Harry Potter.
Yeah. Oh, another thing, again, another example I guess that just jumped to my head from the directing. Again, I like the way they have that opening sequence that's just like that dude in the moss, and then you hear something screaming and he falls over and then he gets dragged away. I love how they mirror that with Kathy when she digs up the Mandrake in the middle of the movie. I thought that was a very nice callback and sort of bringing a lot of these movies. Sometimes they wouldn't bring you back to that until like near the very end. I don't know. There's just something about how they repurpose or they return to that and then continued forward. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a really cool element. Again, an example of why I'm looking forward to seeing more from Lynn Davison as a director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think overall it's very fine.
Yeah. It's a perfectly okay movie. Like I said, I don't think there's any other better way to describe it. It is a thoroughly okay movie, and frankly, considering some of the movies we've seen, even on this show, frankly, a thoroughly okay movie is a perfectly fine thing to be.
I will take thoroughly okay.
That's gonna be
perfectly fine.
That's gonna be the thing. What do they call it when they put it on your tombstone?
Epitaph?
Your epitaph, yeah. Mine's going to say perfectly okay or thoroughly okay is a perfectly fine thing to be.
Mine is going to be more enjoyable when you're eating a burrito.
I love it. Oh, perfect. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't checked out Mandrake, I mean, go give it a shot. You know, you may like it. You may also think it's perfectly okay. If you don't follow us on the social media, what's wrong with you? Get on it. We're on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for the moment. We'll see how Elon Musk continues to do whatever it is he's got going on. TikTok, we're on there. Michelle's got some plans for the TikTok. It's just at
I've been working. Yeah, I've been working on some footage. I got it. I just don't want to post once and then never post again. So I'm trying to
build
line
up a stock.
couple things. Yeah, exactly. And it takes me a little bit because I'm indecisive about what is good enough to put out into the world. And then I go, it's TikTok, lower your standards. And I go, but I can't. I still feel pressure from myself to be perfect. And they're like, again, it's TikTok, lower your standards. And I'm like,
Michelle,
why are we fighting? Yeah.
Michelle, maybe when the time comes to make these determinations on whether or not something is good enough to post to TikTok, maybe just eat a burrito.
Great life advice from JD Proverse, everybody.
Hey, I'm just basing it on your experience here with with
True.
Mandrake.
Yep. Nope. I should just eat a burrito before I post anything, and it'll seem better to me, but not to anybody else.
Life is always better if you're eating a burrito. I think that's the bumper sticker quote right there. Life is always better if you're eating a burrito.
I would like a bumper sticker of that along with our squelching shirts, please.
Absolutely. We'll get on it. Say
Awesome.
goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.